do that again. We weren't quite ready before. Cleveland's Community Police Commission will come to order. It is now 6:01. We are meeting tonight at the Senior Community Center in the Harvard community. We want to welcome each of you who came out today, this afternoon, this evening, for this meeting, and also to many residents who watch and listen to this program through live stream. So we have, I just want to mention before we do the roll call, we have a couple of people who have excused absences. Commissioner Greg Reeves is ill. Commissioner John Adams had to deplane a flight to Cleveland earlier today because of technical problems with the plane. He will be calling in, and you got it? Okay. And we still have a couple of commissioners that are trying to make their way here. But we have a quorum, so we'll get started. We'll begin with a welcome by the councilman. Is he here? Is Councilman Joe Jones in the? Okay. Well, we can do the roll call while he's en route. Commissioner John Adams, excused. Co-chair Rodriguez.
Present.
Commissioner Van Leer. I think he's en route. Commissioner Wong.
Present.
Commissioner Zayed.
Present.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Present.
Commissioner Garrett Ferguson.
Present.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Present.
Commissioner Greg Reeves is excused. Commissioner Early.
Present.
Commissioner Benito.
Present.
And Commissioner Chura.
Present.
And I'm Jan Ridgway, co-chair, and I'm present as well. So again, we want to welcome you for, attending tonight's meeting. I'm sorry. Can you hear me in the back? No. Oh, you can't? Okay. Is that better? Okay, thank you. Again, I would like to welcome those of you who are here. Yes, ma'am. No. So we want to welcome you for coming tonight, and also for those who are listening and viewing using the live stream from home as well. So I guess while we're waiting for the councilman to arrive, we can move to adopt the agenda. I think that there should be one addition to the agenda, and that is a report from the Community Outreach Committee. They met after this agenda had been created and distributed. So we will add that committee to the agenda for a report out. Any other additions or changes to the agenda? If not, we'll move, we will accept it as it is, and we will have co-chair Rodriguez share some meeting decorum guidelines.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to meet with each of you today. On the back of your agenda, you will see just some guidelines for public comment, and this will help to ensure that we hear everyone, as well as ensuring that the meeting moves smoothly and expeditiously. So we will allow you to step up to the mic Everyone is encouraged to participate when that time approaches. Please state your name and possibly where you live. If you have already voiced your ideas, please allow someone else the opportunity to speak. And if we have another opportunity, then you can definitely go up and maybe say a second comment. One person speaks at a time. Please refrain from side conversation because it's going to be very hard to hear. Try your best to understand the pros and cons. We may have various perspectives, and we prefer to be open-minded and objective. Public comment is approximately for like 30 minutes during the CPC meeting, and it's during the designated allotted times on the agenda. If time permits, we will reopen public comment. If any time something shall arise during the conversation, please feel free to voice your concerns to Ms. Williams. If it's regarding the CPC, the Cleveland Community Police Commission, Ms. Williams is setting up the projector for the next portion of the presentation. Or if you would like to send your concerns in writing at clecpc@cleveland.gov. I yield the floor back to Ms. Chair Ridgway.
Thank you. The minutes have been revised and distributed to all the commissioners, and so they are up for approval. Any comments? Questions? Need for clarification? We'll move to accept the minutes. And these are the minutes from the meeting of July 12th. So tonight we are very pleased to be able to bring our meeting again into the community. We've been at 6 other community locations since we began in January of this year. So this will be the 7th community site outside of our office on Perkins. And we are also very pleased that Ward 1 has decided to join us for this meeting tonight. And we want to use this meeting as an opportunity to share with the community at large, those at home as well as those in attendance here, about who we are as a commission, what our roles and responsibilities are as a commission, but also what our roles and responsibilities are to you, our residents. And so we have, we're going to allot time for staff member. We didn't have anything, so we accepted them the way they were. We didn't have to. We're going to allow staff member Shalina Williams to actually present a PowerPoint presentation on, we're hoping, is it working?
Chair, to the chair.
Yes.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
It doesn't appear like we took a vote to approve the minutes.
We can do that. There were no clarifications or questions or comments on them, so I just moved to accept them as they were, but we
But
can
we
move
still have to
formally.
take a vote. Yeah,
Okay.
I believe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, you want to? Let me make sure I don't forget anyone. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
A second?
A second.
Okay, the moved and second to accept the minutes as distributed. Co-Chair Rodriguez?
Yes.
Commissioner Wong?
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed?
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Garrett Ferguson?
Aye.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Aye.
Commissioner Early?
Aye.
Commissioner Benito? Aye. Commissioner Chura?
Aye.
And I from the chair as well. Okay, so the meeting, the minutes are approved as submitted and voted on. Uh, We'll see if Shelley, is she ready? Are you ready? Okay. So again, I want to introduce you to Shalina Williams. She is our community engagement staff, and she has worked very hard to put this meeting together tonight here at in Harvard area and Ward 1. And she has prepared a PowerPoint presentation that will cover who we are, what we do, the expectations of the commission, and we will allow a question and answer period after her presentation just to make sure that if there are questions about what she is sharing, that we will have an opportunity to respond to those questions as well. So, all yours.
Thank you, Chair Ridgway. And good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for coming out this evening. As Chair Ridgway said, my name is Shalina Williams. I am affectionately known as Shelly. Please feel free to call me Shelly. This evening, I would like to give a high-level overview of who we are, the Cleveland Police Commission, what we do, and how you as community members can become a part of the work, the very important work that it is that we do. And because you all are here this evening, it's my assumption that you all have an interest in co-producing public safety with us, the CPC, partnering with the Cleveland Police Commission and other organizations of similar interests across the state. And so if you are a Cleveland native, you probably understand how it is that we got here, right? There were some very high-profile incidents back in 2012, 2013 that took place, use of force incidents with the Cleveland police in our community. You'll remember incidents like the 137 shots, incidents like Tamir Rice, incidents like Tanisha Anderson, who was a young girl having a mental health episode or crisis, and police were called to her house, her family called the police to the house, and she ended up deceased in their care. And there are 97 other families who have suffered at the hands of police violence here in our city. We do have some family members here, Brenda Bickerstaff, whose brother was killed, Craig Bickerstaff, several years ago. And so because of those incidents, and similar use of force incidents, the community cried out to, at that time, Mayor Frank Jackson, saying, you have to do something. The police are killing us. Do something. And so it was Mayor Frank Jackson who called out to the Department of Justice to come in and do an investigation into the Cleveland police. And they did. They did a 21-month-long investigation, bringing in subject matter experts, analyzing, evaluating. And at the end of that 21 months, they found that the Cleveland police had what they termed a pattern or practice of using excessive force that was unconstitutional with the Fourth Amendment of the US Constitution. I like to say they found our police guilty of using excessive force, even to the point of lethal means. They found our police guilty of using illegal search and seizure procedures. They found our police guilty of being biased in the way they police our community. They found our police guilty of not being held accountable for any of it. And so it was at that time that the city of Cleveland, representing the Cleveland police, entered into what's called a settlement agreement with the Department of Justice. We've come to know that better as the consent decree. And the consent decree is a 300-paragraph document that outlines how our police are to reform in those areas that they were cited in. The Department of Justice also recognized that the community should have a voice in how policing looks in our neighborhoods. And so out of the consent decree was born the Cleveland Police Commission. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the Cleveland Police Commission later on in the in the presentation. And so in the consent decree, there were some key issues that were addressed. And as you can see here on the screen, community engagement, CPOP, and we'll talk a little bit more about CPOP a little later on in the presentation, bias-free policing, use of force, search and seizure, all of the things that you see on the screen were areas that our police were cited in. Because this is not Cleveland's first consent decree, there were a group of community members who got together and decided that there was something more that needed to be done, right? The consent decree was good, but what happens when the consent decree goes away? We found, because we've had a consent decree in the past, our police have historically reverted back to familiar ways of policing our neighborhoods. So what they got together and decided was that we need something more permanent and something that had a little more teeth, if you will. So family members, community organizations got together and they drafted what some of you may know if you voted in November 2021. On the ballot, you saw an issue called Issue 24. Issue 24 was the most progressive piece of legislation on police reform ever drafted. Mayor Bibb, and there was one other mayoral candidate at the time, supported that piece of legislation. And there's a quote that Mayor Bibb said, well, in November 2021, Issue 24 passed with almost a unanimous vote from the city of Cleveland. It then became Charter Amendment 115, which is how our new commission exists. There are some key differences in how the Cleveland Police Commission existed under the consent decree versus how we exist under Charter Amendment 115. And let me just say, there are 140 civilian oversight entities across the nation, across this entire nation. The Cleveland Police Commission that you see before you is the only commission that exists with the authorities and responsibilities that they have. And here highlighted under Charter Section 115 are some of those responsibilities and authorities. And so comparison, under the consent decree, the commission was selected by a panel. Under Section 115, they are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by city council. Under the consent decree, we were up under the Department of Public Safety, so we had to go through the Department of Public Safety for any requests or anything that we wanted. Under Section 115, we are an independent entity. Under the consent decree, we were temporary, so when the consent decree went away, so was the Cleveland Police Commission slated to go away. Under Section 115, we are permanent. Under the consent decree, we could only make recommendations to the police department. We were often called toothless dogs. Under Section 115, we are the final authority in police practices, in police policies, in police trainings, in discipline. And when I say final authority, I mean final over the chief of police, final over the safety director, final over the mayor. We are the final authority. Under the consent decree, we can only request documents. Under Section 115, we have subpoena powers. They are the most powerful commission in the nation. Some of our commissioners are missing, but you have before you the most powerful police commission in the history of this nation. They come from very diverse backgrounds, with very diverse skills, and as you can see, they represent Cleveland's very diverse communities. Some of our commissioners have been appointed for a 4-year term. Some of them have been appointed for a 2-year term, and that was so that we never have to start from scratch, if you will. There will always be some commissioners from old who can bring forward the new ones coming in. And even though this is a new commission up under Section 115, we have had previous iterations in the past. We have been established since 2015. And so work has been going on since that time. And these are the areas that we have worked in. If you go to our website, clecpc.org, you can take a look at some of the accomplishments from previous iterations of the Police Commission. And because this commission is newly established with new responsibilities and authorities, they're undergoing, since the beginning of the year, very intense training so that they can more effectively, fairly, and justly adhere to the responsibilities that they've been assigned and appointed to do. And this is where all the magic happens, in committees. And so they've established these committees that you see before you: police policy committee, accountability committees, training, and thereon and so forth. You can go on. And this is how the community can get involved with what it is that we do. As you are doing this evening, come to one of our full commission meetings. They are on our calendar, and again, you can visit our website to see a look at our full calendar. You can join one of our work groups, right? So you can attend any one of our meetings, as you're doing now, and any one of our committee meetings. But to get involved in actually doing the work, we have established, or will be establishing, work groups. And so you can join a work group so that your voice can be heard in the work group. You can certainly sign up for our emails, newsletters, and you can also follow us on our socials. And getting involved in your community. I'm sure many of you already are attending your ward meetings. There are district policing committee meetings that you can also get involved with. And that is where what we call CPOP, or Community and Problem-Oriented Policing, happens. CPOP is where the community and police work together to problem-solve issues that come up in our community. And when I say work together, I don't mean you show up to a meeting and then you throw your concern at the police and think that you've done your part. Absolutely not. Working together means just that. We work together with the police to problem solve, right? They have a lot on their plate, and they've often said, we can't do this alone, and they can't. They need our support and help. And I'm glad they're here. They're our guests tonight, so we're going to find out ways that we can support and help them. Certainly, you can attend any one of City Council's meetings and vote. Exercise your right to vote. Because this holds true. Community and policing only works if the community gets involved. Only if the community gets involved. If you sit around and complain about it and do nothing about it, then basically you're saying you're okay with what's happening. And please, contact us. This is the way. This is our office. We're on Perkins, our website, and our email and phone number. Take a picture of it. I'm sure every one of you have a cell phone. Are there any questions? Ms. Bickerstaff.
There are two CPC boards, and it's not, it's just one. So once the consent decree leave and it's over and done with, I believe, once the judge sign off on it and they've met all the requirements, then they're gonna have a monitor over them for 2 more years. Then when that's over with, this board is full force. It's full force right now. But I just want to make it clear because some people still think there are two CPCs. So that's why I wanted to make that clear.
Thank you for that. And again, when the consent decree does leave, this commission is in place to make sure that everything that has been established and accomplished under the consent decree holds. right, holds. We will not revert back. Are there any other questions? Thank you so much for your time. And so I'm going to introduce our guest for this evening. We do have the Cleveland Police here. We have Lieutenant Chapman here, who will talk to us about police services in our neighborhoods and what is affecting our policing services. He is also joined by his colleagues and constituents. I see that we have Deputy Chief Sammy Morris in the room. Thank you so much, Chief, for coming out, and Lieutenant Muscle. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Excuse me, right before you start, I think the councilman has come in, so we would like to give him the opportunity to make a welcome.
Councilman Jones.
Thank you. To the Police Commission and the board members who are assembled here this afternoon, to the Executive Director, Jason Goodrich, let's give a big round of applause for Shalina Williams, who did a great job with her introduction. To the citizens of the city of Cleveland who are here and those who are watching on TV, I want to always talk about the proposition of democracy. Sometimes democracy is not easy. It's a difficult task. But in order to make democracy work and to make it successful, we always have to have a level of professionalism, a sense of courtesy, and civility with one another. We have 17 members of Cleveland City Council. We don't always get sometimes what we want. But we have this rule where if we have some difficulties with one another, that we pull one another aside to try to work out or hash out whatever those situations are. This commission, like any other commission or any other committee or any other organization or nonprofit or those that are in business that have boards, have to find a way to work together. What's at stake here is having and creating a strong police department, a department that is responsive to the citizens that they represent. And I'll give you a case in point, because I just got this call from a friend whose daughter is 17 years old. And this is out in Pepper Pike. And she is riding in the car with some of her friends. Now, the law says that when you're under 17 or you're 17 years old and you're under 18, that you can't be riding in the car with a whole bunch of your friends. Now, how many people know that? A handful. So, but the police pulled her over because she didn't make a complete stop at the stop sign. Now, the police could get her for 2 tickets. One for not making a complete stop at the stop sign, and then 2 for breaking the state law. But because their system is such an adjusted system, what they did was they gave her a warning. They gave her a warning. And they let her go. And they told her that, I'm going to call the person who has the ownership of this car, and she told them that was my dad. And so they called my friend up and told him what had happened. That community has it on the ball. Some issues and some situations don't have to result in deadly force. Am I right? But I also want to say this. Not only did they show a sense of restraint and didn't tax the young lady, but the same is true here in our city. We do have some spectacular police officers who go above and beyond to make sure they keep us safe. And if it wasn't for those who are still working diligently and holding the line, we'll have some real major issues in our city. So I want to thank all the police officers who are here. If you could please stand. All the officers who are titled, please stand. Let's give them a great big round of applause. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize the president of Black Lives Matter. Every time I get an opportunity to hear her speak, she has a sense of stability about her words, and they make an impact, and I'm always there watching what they do. And so I really appreciate you being in attendance, Mrs. Tanya Gillespie. Can you please stand? We would not be here today if it was not for the hospitality and the goodness of the heart of this center, which was established the year I was born in 1968 by Ruby McCullough, who is now the executive director today is Elaine Goldstein. She's done an outstanding job for our neighborhood. Let's give her a great big applause and thank her. Please stand, Ms. Goldstein. I want to also recognize Reverend Goldstein and all the ministers who are here, Reverend Kyle Early, who sits on the commission. And I want to leave you with this. Life is hard, and we're living in probably some of the most difficult times that I could recall being a human being on this planet. We have situations that are impacting us on a local level. And I told someone here recent, I get 75 calls a day, and sometimes 100 calls. And none of those calls are all pleasant calls. They some real serious sandwich eaters. All right, and you can understand what's in the sandwich. But at the end of the day, I still have to have the patience, have the sense of wisdom, of understanding, and have the empathy of the person that's behind the call, no matter what that call is, no matter what their issues are, and to try to do the best I can to help them resolve it. But the challenges have gotten so bad that not only are we dealing with issues on the local level here in the city of Cleveland, the challenges that we consistently face, but we're also dealing with them on the statewide level. We see that one party is pushing their social agenda on all of America and experimenting on us in every ways and means possible by loading down our neighborhoods with guns, making it very difficult for our police to do their jobs. And then we have, on the national level, the attack on affirmative action. And the courts pushing initiatives and narratives that will allow businesses and corporations to discriminate against whomever they want. So we are really indeed at a major crossing roads in this nation. And then what makes it even worse is we have global issues that are impacting us in terms of global warming. So when we deal with all the very myriad facets and the issues that we have to deal with at the end of the day, I want to just leave you with this. Keep God in front of you. Pray all the time. Try to have peace with your brother and your sister that you live next to. And if you can work it out without calling your councilman, please be able to do that. With that, I love you all. Have a great evening. And to the board, thank you for your service to our community. Your service is very critical to our neighborhood. I would ask that you just have favor with one another, patience with one another, work with one another. There's going to be those tough times and difficulties, but you have to work past that. Get past it, because your deliberations are going to help to make a difference, not just here in this city, but across the nation. All eyes, as I may have told each and every one of you, is watching you right now. So how you conduct your business is critically important. And it doesn't matter what is coming at you. You have to be professional. You have to be stable-minded. You have to learn how to develop some really strong, tough skin, because some folks are going to say some things, and they're saying it for the reason is to get you riled up. Did you hear me? And you shouldn't let nobody get you out of your skin. unless it's God coming walking through the door. And that's when you should drop down on your knees and thank him for being in your presence and you being in his presence. But anything short of that, keep your professionalism. I think that I expect great things out of this commission, and you got some great members here, and I look forward to doing everything I can to help you, to facilitate your processes, but more importantly, anything that we can do to assist you, we're going to be there. And then lastly, I do see the administration in the back. I see the director of the law department. Can you please? Now let's thank him for being here. Now I want to, Mr. Griffin, he does an outstanding job for our people and our community. I just want to thank him for his work. I know he's constantly in that office working all the time. And every time I give him a call, even if it's late at night, he picks up the phone. So let's thank Mr. Griffin for being our law director in the city of Cleveland. And you all have a great meeting. Thank you. Who I turn this over to?
Afternoon, everybody. First of all, do not expect me to speak as well as him. I have to follow that up. I'll just speak from the heart. I want you all to know my name is Michael Chapman, okay? I am a lieutenant at the 4th District. I am the C Platoon Night Commander. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up over I was born and raised over here in the city of Cleveland in the 4th District. I grew up over here on Kinsman, Buckeye, 116th. Can you hear me better? Okay. Like I said, first of all, my name is Michael Chapman. I grew up here in the 4th District, in between the Kinsman, Buckeye, East 116th, East 93rd area. Okay. I'm over 40 years old. I was a knucklehead in the streets. I'm sure if any of you are my age or older, we all know what that term knucklehead means. Okay. I've seen things as a young person. I've been part of things as a young person, but as I grew older, my mindset changed. Okay, it had to change. There were things, like I said, I've been a part of the positive side of interactions with police, and I've been on the side of negative side of interactions with the police. But it was a positive interaction when I was out there in Knucklehead that made me change my ways. And there were 2 white officers, actually. And really, I probably should still be in jail from what I was doing that day. And the reason why I say that, why I point out that they were white officers, was because of the normal national attention when it comes to white officers as opposed to black officers, you know. And history has dictated that that's probably should get that type of attention. But that's not the same for everyone. I was asked to speak today because of my integrity, because of my character. I asked Lieutenant Muscle to join me because we have the same type of visions and the same type of ethics that we share. When we talk about civilian oversight, we were both in approval of it because we definitely believe that there should be civilian oversight. The community should have a say in what goes on with the police department. And the reason why I also told you where I'm from is because, first and foremost, I'm a member of the community. I didn't come from Pleasantville, Strongsville, Parma Shaker, name it. Here, 40 plus years in the 4th District, okay? So when something happens, I'm doubly affected. 1, as a black man, 2, as a police officer. So I have two roads I have to travel, 2 roads. And right now I'm in the role of pushing my ethics and my character to my platoons, to my officers. Because many of them do buy in. Many of them have bought in. A lot of things you see and hear about with police, the negative side, you normally don't hear about it now, often from Cleveland. Yes, we had our things in the past that Ms. Williams spoke about, but now you hear about things nationally as opposed to Cleveland. Unfortunately, that pendulum, when it swings slow. It does. I can see the change because I'm part of that change. But that one person who has that one bad interaction absolutely cannot. But we do try. We absolutely are out here trying every day. With the amount of officers that we have, the amount of time that they work daily, because they are working 18 hours plus daily. Because just like nationwide, it's a shortage of police, and Cleveland is not immune from that. But they come out here every day and give you guys the best that they can. And when they don't, when they stray away from it, believe you me, myself, Lieutenant here, and Deputy Chief, Captain Simon, we all make sure that they are held responsible to the best of our abilities. Okay? I know you all have a lot of questions, and I hope it's not the same softball questions. You know, what can we do? You'll normally hear the thing, see something, say something, okay? That really goes without saying, but I also understand being a part of that other side of the tracks at my young age, sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you're afraid to do that. But one thing I do want to say is we need your help. And one thing that you can help us is many of you have sons and daughters. Some of you have 20-year-old sons and daughters who are on social media daily and sitting at home, and I don't know what their lives is, but one way you can help us is have them sign up to be police. Have those community members help be authority members in our community. And I say our community because I'm still part of this community. And believe you me, at every function, that's the first thing I say. I see a young, strapping young man or a young, intelligent woman who are still looking for their role where they're going to take them in life. And I say, sign up for the department. Teaches you structure, discipline, accountability, responsibility, and the police job is like any other. What you all see is the things that, you know, what you see on TV and in the movies. It is literally, when you become a police officer, a whole new door for your life opens. And I'll be candid when I say a whole new door, because I want you to think about, and I'm like, in my candidacy, I'm gonna say it just like this. The first time you divergenized yourself, a whole new world opened for you. That is what it's like to become a police officer. It is a world that you read about and you watch on TV, but when you're part of it, it is like none other. When people talk about there are burglaries and robberies and rapes and murders happen every day, you have no idea. It is unreal, and it is real. But we definitely could use your help, and I believe that the best way is to recruit your sons and your daughters, your nieces, your nephews, to help us out, because we definitely could use it. Myself and the lieutenant here are open to any questions that we may have. I will not speculate on things I do not know about. If there are things that are above my station, you know, I will try to get those questions to the appropriate people. When it comes to the CPC, we're still learning about our relationship with them. I can read a PowerPoint. I can read their resumes, but it's with repetition, where I become more understanding of our relationship and how I can lead our officers in a better way, in the best way possible. When it came to the CPC and they put all of their resumes online, I felt that there were brilliant minds. Brilliant minds. The one thing that members of the department want to know is that, can those brilliant minds come together? And while can you also do the same? Can you also do the same? Okay? Because I want you all to know, like I said, 18 plus hours every single day is a mental strain on officers. We are not robots, not robots. I thought coming into this position and as a white shirt that life was going to be smooth sailing. I did not realize how easy really it was to be just a patrol officer. My responsibilities and have 100 times multiplied, because these officers have to go home and they have families, they have children, they have debts, they have divorces, and they have to come and work 18 plus hours daily and deal with the underbelly of Cleveland. So mistakes are going to be made. Not that they want to, but we want to minimize those mistakes as best as possible. Okay? Any questions you may have, I'm right here. Any questions that the deputy chief can answer, I'll definitely ask for the deputy chief. And that's all for now. Shalina? Yes. If that is where, I don't want to take up, too much time at all. I'm here because you asked.
Hold up one moment so you can go to the mic. We just have the one mic. We have.
So my question for all officers in the room, Lieutenant Chapman just stated some of our officers are working 18-hour shifts. That's a lot. What are you guys doing? Because it sounds like they're being mandated often. What do you do to support officers when they have to work that kind of time, especially over and above, their regular shift? And what are some of those? What are some of the calls? What are some of the calls that are being received?
Okay, some things that we do to help alleviate some of the stresses that come upon these officers that are working daily. One thing that we've come up with is our support units, our detectives, our community services officers, our vice detectives. We've asked them to put the uniform back on. All our plainclothes detectives, we asked them to put the uniform back on and help out on patrol. We've firstly had to lessen our car plan because the strain can be too much. And what we don't want to do is break the officers because they're bending hard, but we don't want them to break. So we do as much as we can. We're very, also, myself and Lieutenant Muscle, we're not out on patrol. We may, and believe me, people love to see us show up because, we're veterans and we're high-level supervisors, but we're on patrol out there. We're coming in on our off time just so some of these guys can go home, and we're taking on some of the responsibilities that are normally left to patrol officers. It's fine by me because, one, it keeps me sharp. It keeps me from being disconnected. And I'm gonna tell you, just like a doctor and a lawyer, the laws and procedures, they change all the time. And it keeps me more updated. She asked what type of calls were coming through. Now, I mentioned earlier that, of course, I'm not gonna say of course, domestic violence, shootings, homicides, every single day. When a person calls for the police and you have an issue going on in your house, that is a priority call, not just somebody left their bike in my yard. When there's a serious call, you expect the officers to come because right now you are the most important in your family in dealing with the most important issues. Unfortunately, there are five other calls for service that are just like yours, that officers are going to. And when you hear that, why didn't the police show up? Why didn't the police show up? Because they are at the same calls in 5 different other areas. And I mean that. When you hear on the news, 6 people were shot, 3 dead, many times, that comes from one district. One district, one night can get all of that happening. Myself, I start calling other districts and say, can you send those cars? Can you get a boss out here? And I'm a boss. I'm asking for another boss. because it does get to that. And because we are shorthanded, because we are short-staffed, it happens more often now than not. When people are calling and now we have priority runs, when the next shift comes on, they're like, why do we have 20 runs on the board and they're priority runs? But they understand. Of course, they ask the question because it's just normal to ask the question. But then they see it and they understand, okay? Does anybody else have anything, ma'am?
First of all, I want to thank and honor the police officers and law enforcement here because we need you and we appreciate you and we know that there are great cops out there. But Ms. Williams touched on a very important point, and you as well. You're not robots. 18 hours with the kind of work that you do, when you get up in the morning and you put on your badge and your uniform and you ride around, you're expecting something to happen. You are hyper. You're poised for something. It's unhuman to imagine somebody doing that for 18 hours and not having any downtime. And we are always looking at the problem and not looking at the solution. We're expecting you to do everything, and the community is all over the place. Until we get to a point where we honor your service in a way that says, I need downtime. I need to decompress what just happened today. It amazes me that we have firemen who are on 24 and off 48. They live at the firehouse. We know how that works. But there's a reason for that. Because they go into intense fires, like you go into intense situations. But they also live as a group for 24 hours. And they have time to decompress. They have time to settle down. When a police officer doesn't have that time and he's on a call, he misjudges, his observations are off. You are not robots. So somehow, and I pray the commission will look at programs that will engage and give police officers opportunities and the head of the police department to realize we can't run people like this. It's amazing. Some of our most important positions that keep our communities whole, we have the least regard for. And that's not to say we don't regard police, but come on now. We wouldn't expect teachers to teach 18 hours a day, and they don't have to be confronted with the things you are. So I think that is something, and I hope that you're right, this is a very elite commissioners that we have here, that it's time to make a change. We're in a desperate place, I feel. I know we are, but I also feel hope. We can make a change. We know what to do. And I think that hearing from the community, I think community needs to understand more about what it is involved in being a police officer. And I think that police, if they have a chance to be police officers, will first protect and serve and not be warriors. That's my comment. Thank you for your time.
What we would like to do is if you have questions that you want to ask of the officers, if you could do that, and if it's a comment, we'll save that for the public comments section so we can at least finish the business. Yes.
I got a question. You know, I used to be a young liberal, and on the July 20th, we had all these parcels I paid property taxes on. I live in the 5th district. I don't call about those calls you call about. I call about speeding. Speeding all day long, and I'm just tired of it. So I live on Green Road. Green Road starts in Cleveland, South Euclid, Beechwood, Warrensville. Question is, I call 1234, then I call the 5th District Commander's Office. They tell me the same thing, we don't have enough people. I've been hearing that for 10 years. So my question is, the speeding now, when I see a Dodge Charger or Mustang officer at a red light, and mine's about to go green, I stop because they normally speed. So my problem is now, my quality of life I feel is in danger because if I'm just driving down Harvard, I'm afraid they go right through the light. So what is the procedure on giving out tickets? Are they giving out tickets and saying, hello, give you a warning? And last thing, because when I go through South Euclid, they stop them. I go through Beechwood, they stop them. Get to Cleveland, they just run havoc.
Thank you for that. I want everybody to understand that when it's time to give someone a citation, it is the discretion of the officer to either give them a warning or a citation, okay? And all things are, one, every stop is not the same. Every stop is not routine. Do you pull over somebody, if they actually stop, do you look at their driving record? Are they known for constantly running red lights or speeding? I'm sure that they're probably more than likely they're gonna get a citation. Or is it somebody that just, one, raise your hand if you're a perfect driver. Raise your hand, except for her. Raise your hand if you don't go a little bit faster, whether it's with the flow of traffic or not. Unfortunately, I'm not even gonna say unfortunately, because you're dealing with someone who been involved in pursuits and controlled pursuits as a supervisor. But a lot of times, they stop in other cities because the other cities will chase them till the cows come home. And in chasing them, they put every one of you in danger for a citation. Okay? So while we have a policy, it is what some people would say restricted, but I have intimate knowledge on why I agree with that policy. Because there are a few people on the job who's had the unfortunate of seeing being part of an innocent person suffering from a police chase. Even if the chase is warranted, even if the crime was so egregious that this person had to be taken off the streets because they were going to do it to someone else. Unfortunately, this forever battle in history between lawbreakers and peacekeepers, unfortunately, innocent people will always get caught in the middle. History has dictated such, and human nature has dictated such. We can only be as cautious as we can. If everybody runs from us, one, we try to get as much information as we can on that car, who owned it, description of the drivers, and what could possibly, if something can lead on to a later arrest, if this car is connected with anything, so be it. But if somebody doesn't stop for speeding or a red light or a stop sign or some type of just a traffic violation, I honestly 100% believe it is not worth putting any of you or my officers or myself at risk in chasing them down. Lawbreakers know that. They know it. So what do you think that they're going to do? I'm out of here. And that's just, it's not just the way the cookie crumbles, because the division constantly tries to update our policies when it comes to things like that. But we're dealing in human conduct. And in human conduct, there is an infinite amount of possibilities. An infinite amount. There is not an answer for everything. All right. One second, everyone. I believe that the deputy chief wants to say something.
Thanks, Mike. I don't want people to think we're not doing traffic, because we are doing traffic. Each district has 2 traffic officers. We have a traffic unit. When the former councilman used to call, I used to send the traffic car up to where he lived, because I was the commander of the 5th district, and I would always send the traffic car up to where he lived, up on Green Road, to conduct traffic when we received complaints. Now, we have our law enforcement partners that are assisting us with traffic, because traffic is big. The Ohio State Patrol, you'll see the Ohio State Patrol out here assisting us with traffic. Our traffic unit will continue to enforce traffic throughout the district. They work with each district and the traffic units in each district to conduct traffic enforcement. If you just recently seen, former Cleveland Division of Police Deputy Chief Harold Patel is now the sheriff of Cuyahoga County. So in hopes that he has that relationship with us, the sheriffs will be brought in for some of the enforcement, at least to assist us in some of the things we do. That's going to be the ask to Sheriff Patel. I hated the traffic cameras. I hated my. We all got tickets. My kids got tickets. I had to pay their tickets. But now I look at it, maybe we still need them because if you ran the light, they got you no matter who you were, black, white, yellow, green, blue, on Harvard, Superior, Kinsman, wherever. So, but I just don't want you to think that we're not out here enforcing traffic. We are out here enforcing traffic, and we run multiple traffic details within the city and with our law enforcement partners, and we're hoping to get some assistance with some air support as well when we do our traffic details.
We have time for, I know that we have lots of hands up. We also need to be able to complete the agenda tonight. So we have time for one more question. I think your hand has been up for a while. And I'm hoping that the officers will stay around after the meeting, and this will give you an opportunity to talk directly to them right after the meeting is over. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the officers for protecting and serving. I'm a 10-year Gulf War veteran, so I know what it means to serve. My question is, you made a comment about the type of calls you get, domestic violence. So there was an incident in my family right here in this district where my sister was being stalked. She was threatened, she was shot at, she was kidnapped by a former boyfriend. We called the police, we made reports, and they were like, oh, okay, we're gonna catch him, we're gonna catch him, we're gonna catch him. I went down to the mayor's office and I said, oh, the mayor isn't available, you gotta do this. My question is, as a black woman, is a black woman's life as important when it comes to domestic violence as our white women? Because I said, when I went down to the police office, to the district, I sat there and I said, until somebody goes to pick him up, I am not leaving. Because if my name was different and my sister did not live off of Lee and Harvard, he would not be still roaming the streets. And so the guy said to me, well, ma'am, we're short-staffed. It was the fact that one of the officers was a member of my other sister's church, and they got in their car the next night and patrolled and put him in jail. But once he got to Cleveland court, they let him out on a $5,000 bail. It wasn't until Bedford, because it was the incident that happened in Bedford. It was Bedford that picked him up and sent him to jail for 5 years. As a result, my sister had to move. Her house was 2 years from being paid off. She had to sell her house and move somewhere where she felt safe. So my question, when it comes down to domestic violence, are we taking black women serious? And are we going after the perpetrator?
Thank you for that. And one, I'm sorry that you and your family had to go through that. I'm going to answer honestly and truthfully. It does not matter if you are black or white or Hispanic. Every situation when it comes to domestic violence, our detectives and our officers go at it as best as they can, okay? It's not a situation where because she's white, she's going to get the attention that someone of ethnic background wouldn't. I can't answer intimately to your situation. It's unfortunate if that's the way it turned out, that it did, that you did not get the service that you felt you provided, and it took another city to do that. I can't answer why that happened. But what I can tell you, what is actually the truth, that detectives, being short-staffed is not an excuse. It is an actuality. It is an actuality, and the officers and detectives put as much time into each case they get. Each case they get. And how do you fill those those spots from, those detector spots. You pull them from patrol. All right? They don't come blinked out into existence. The officers come from patrol and they try to fill up those spots the best they can to have an equal amount of cases between themselves. But they do go and give every case the attention it deserves. DC?
I'm sorry that someone told you that staffing was an issue. That should never be an issue. We have a domestic violence unit that works out of the Justice Center. That's all they do is domestic violence for the city of Cleveland. We have a unit that once the domestic violence unit obtains warrants for these individuals, we do what we call warrant sweeps, where we go out and we look for the individuals and we go after them. So what that officer probably should have did is given that information to the DV unit so it could have been forwarded to our NICE unit where they could have added that person who was probably already on the list. And you have to remember, when you go on warrant sweeps and that, everybody's not honest. Is he here? No, he's not here. You know, or they hide him, they do whatever. But we do actively go out and look for these people on warrants. We call them warrant sweeps. And as far as domestic violence, we have a domestic violence unit, and that's all they do. And they also have advocates that work with them to help the victims of domestic violence to get resources to get them out of that circle of violence or get them out of that situation, okay? So if that, I hope that never happens to your sister again, but let her know that there is a domestic violence unit. And that officer that you spoke to had, he should have asked her at least if she went through that process, if she made a report. If not, he could have got her, pointed her in the right direction where she could receive the help that she needed.
We actually did go down to the domestic violence department. It was not until we obtained an attorney that we really got some things taken care of.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying. Hopefully, it is better than what it was. But what we went through and the fact that the mayor was like, you know, the cop came back to us, he didn't have time, we needed to fill out all this paperwork. I think my sister could have been dead.
Well, paperwork is what it is. You have to, right, you have to do that. There's some things that now we're trying to cut back on some of that paperwork, but that should never be an excuse. Staffing or manpower, that should never be an excuse.
I would just inform that we're going to have one more question for this particular Q&A, and then we're going to move along afterwards.
Hi, I'm Alice Battle. I want to know, how do you know the difference between a fake and a real police report? I've been filing police reports and complaints for over 10 years now, and I'm calling out Director Kerry Howard because I've been telling the city of Cleveland I want a protection order against him, the Ohio Professional Standards Office, their Citizen Review Board, Officer Straley Jacob, who helped do a fake police reports because they're helping CMHA steal money from black women in the city of Cleveland, including myself. So I'm here to represent us from this city and multiple cities because they are covering millions of dollars, and I have the paperwork to prove it. Why am I getting threats about that if I go down there and file a police report that I'll be dead on the stairs that I stand?
We want to use this opportunity to ask questions of the officers.
So I want somebody here to tell me if this police report is real or not. And why is it being refused to be investigated? And I will be here for the comments because I want y'all all to know of the bribery and fraud they are doing in the suppression of black women and their children.
First of all, I'm going to be here till the end.
Thank you.
If somebody, like I said, any questions, concerns you may have, I'll be glad to stay here and answer them, okay? I'm going to move along. I'm going to give this over to Ms. Williams.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Chapman. Thank you guys for helping us understand what is actually affecting our policing services in our neighborhood. And I'm going to turn it back over to Chair Ridgway.
We want to thank the officers for, your presentation. tonight, and also your responses that were given to the people who asked questions. You will be staying, as I understand, until the meeting is over, and I would encourage those of you who have additional questions to at least touch bases with them after the meeting. The chair's reports are due next. Co-chair Rodriguez.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just have one item for the commissioners. Just in general, please submit your frameworks and your budget. I would like to thank Commissioner Van Leer for submitting his, and we look forward to working forward and really setting our framework to really get this work moving forward.
I don't have anything else to add to our reports, but I would like to have Commissioner Alana introduce a guest who has come to work and assist you tonight if you need help.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. We have a guest from Vote Writers. So we know there's an election coming up August 8th. Many people do not have the necessary identification that they need, just because this is a new law that they just put in place that you now have to have proper identification. So we have someone here tonight that can assist you all if anyone needs help getting an ID, birth certificate, or social security card. You can see this gentleman, Nick Ramos, over here. He will be available afterwards. He can assess free of charge, just a resource for the community. We just want to make it available. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's also an announcement from Commissioner Benito.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us in your ward and in your community center. It's a pleasure to be with you. One thing I wanted to kind of announce, based on the comments that Lieutenant Chapman talked about that it can be hard to get service right now because the police...
May we have your attention, please, so everyone can hear?
Because of, the staffing shortages that we're seeing in the Division of Police, I wanted to share a resource with all of you. If you are needing to make a call because you or a loved one are experiencing a mental health crisis, whether that's concern about suicide, concern about that somebody is maybe having a break with reality, concern about a substance use issue, just any kind of mental health or suicide or substance use crisis, you can now call the number 988 on your phone. So kind of like 911, but 988. And you will be routed to a mental health professional in this area. And so one thing that you can do is sometimes people don't realize that there's another number that you can call in addition to 911 when you or a loved one are experiencing a mental health, suicide, or substance use crisis. So I just wanted to make sure that all of you were aware of that and that there is help available 24 hours a day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for making that announcement. The chair recognizes the executive director, Jason Goodrich, for his report.
Good evening, commissioners. And good evening to the public who came out tonight. This is one of the best audiences I've ever seen in my time here at the commission, and I appreciate that. Where is our councilperson who helped work with us to put this together? He has long wanted to have this happen, and I just wanted to say thank you to him and his staff as well for working with our staff as they have even before this commission was seated. Councilman Jones was a wonderful ally, always picked up the phone for the staff, and has a long-standing relationship with the commission going all the way back to its beginning. So I will keep this short this evening, recognizing there's a lot of people here who probably have something to say to you tonight, so I don't want to cut into their time. So I just have two follow-ups from my last executive director briefing to you. Travel to NACOL, for those of you who requested it, is in the process. As soon as arrangements are made, travel will reach out to my office and work with you to schedule your flights and let you know hotel bookings and all those things. So it is in the process. It's going through procurement now after the vote was taken to approve that. 2 updates on jobs in the office manager and finance coordinator. There is a committee consisting of myself, Commissioner Donaldson, who volunteered his time, and one of our staff members, Sarah Anderson. We've interviewed 2 candidates. One candidate withdrew after we offered an interview because they took another opportunity, which happens in this job market. And then we are reaching out to 2 more on our list. So sometime next week, hopefully we will have our finalist to send over to the city. And then after it was briefly removed, it is now posted again, is the Assistant Director of Law position that is a half-time position with the CPC to support us in our legal questions, and a half-time position working as general counsel for the city on non-related issues to our work. That is all I have this evening to update you on, and I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We will hear the committee status reports, beginning with the Internal Training Committee, and this committee is co-chaired by Commissioner Garrett Ferguson and Commissioner Kyle Early.
We do not have an update at this time.
No update, okay. Next would be Budget and Grants Committee. This is a standing committee, and this is chaired by Dr. John Adams, who is not here tonight. And so I understand that Commissioner Zayed will give that report.
So on behalf of Commissioner John Adams, I will give this report. He sent this to me earlier today. So he has a few points. So as of today, we have received 24 applications for our community grants program. The total amount requested is $1.6 million so far. We have recently shot a promo video that should come out any day now, just trying to push those last efforts to get the information for grants out there to the community. We plan to start reviewing applications within the week and notify awardees by August 31st. So we are going to send out letters of agreements in September to those people that have been awarded the grant. Funds will be dispersed sometime in September and October. As of now, all grantees should have their funds by November 1st. That is our plans, but most likely sooner. Let's see. And the city's Assistant Director of Law, Stephanie, I think it's Melnick, is our point person for the grants and will be drawing the contracts for us. And that process has already begun. So any further updates will keep you posted, and you can go on the CPC's website or email us if you have any additional questions. Thank you.
Yes.
Just for a point of clarity, can you explain to the audience what this grant process is, what these grants will allow for those who may not have attended that particular meeting?
Okay, so we are giving out grants in our community. The CPC's Community Grants is a program the program was lined in our charter and is a part of Section 115.5. And with these grants, we want to address the areas of violence interruption, mediation, and restorative justice. So these grants are for, we want to target grassroots organizations who in the past normally wouldn't receive funding from other organizations or funders. We want these to help organizations in the community who are on the ground working with residents every day to address those issues. So that was just something that was lined in the charter to help the community in those areas. And what the goal is to reduce negative interactions with the police. So we want to promote, reduce violence and promote positive interactions with our police department.
So just as an addition, if there is a community organization that feels you have a project that you would like to submit for this grant, and you do not have a 501c3, you can seek to work under another nonprofit. That person would be your fiscal agent. So it would be, we're encouraging people throughout the community to apply if they're, if you have an interest or a project that you think would be worthwhile. And I believe that the date had been extended, Commissioner?
As of now, no.
No, okay. All right, thank you. Yes.
I want to say kudos to the Budget and Grants Committee. I know that, this is the first year that we're doing this. So, of course, there's always hiccups, but you continue to prevail and have perseverance. Hopefully we learn, we continue to evaluate, and it seems like it's going to be a success.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wong, who is the chair of the Rules Committee.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Thank you for having us. So the Rules Committee has no new rules to introduce, but I just wanted to update you on our upcoming rules in case community members want to stream or attend the meetings. We welcome your input. Our meeting will be Wednesday, the 2nd of August from 6 to 8 at the CPC headquarters in the Perkins building. We will be, at this moment, considering 2.x again, which regards the received of citizen or officer-based complaints. So that is definitely something that a community member can provide input for. We will also be assessing, the charter gives us the ability at our discretion if there is a legal conflict of interest with the city law department to initiate a process with which we engage lawyers that are independent, that can give us independent counsel, and this will be at the law department's expense. So we will be further articulating and making sure that we understand what that process actually looks like and the timelines. So that's also very important to keep us on the right track with our accountability and integrity. And the third request has been to make kind of like a more schematic, I guess, that we can follow for the meeting minutes so that people who don't attend, we understand that our meetings are streamed, but that's obviously very cumbersome to look through the entire, watch the entire 2 or 2.5 hours. So we would like to make our minutes more standardized such that we can convey the information more clearly to you, but also not overstress the detail too much that might be hard to capture. Further on, this is a standing committee. We are, in the future, will be looking at our evidentiary hearing processes. Those are the processes with which we will, as a commission and also the accountability committee, look at actual officer misconduct. So even though that seems like a very legal issue, if there's community input and perspectives on that, we welcome that, but that is a little bit in the future. And we hope to get that off the ground running because we understand that at any moment we could be called to respond to a high-profile incident or an incident a complaint that arises to ask us for our assessment. So thank you. That's all I have. But that's Wednesday, August 2nd, from 6 to 8, and it's a CPC headquarters in a building on Perkins Avenue near Asiatown. Thank you so much.
So if there are those in the audience who have gone to YouTube and looked at the posted CPC meetings, there is a transcript portion of it that will give you the first line or two of the time that a particular topic was discussed. You can scroll down to that particular part of the YouTube presentation and not have to go through the whole 2.5 to 3 hours. So there is a way that you can go to YouTube, go to the transcript portion. There will always be a 1 or 2 line description. You can go to that description and it will fast forward you to that part of the program. So you don't have to sit through the whole tape if you don't want to. I just wanted to share that because I had an opportunity to work with that a couple of weeks ago and it was really convenient. For the Police Policy Committee, Commissioner Van Leer.
Thank you, Commissioner Ridgway. So the Policy Committee had its first meeting on July 13th, and during that meeting we established two work groups, the Surveillance Technology Work Group and the Behavioral Health and Crisis Intervention Work Group. So these are two areas that are among our highest priority areas of work, and we're in the process of finalizing our strategic plan for the rest of 2023 and 2024. And those are two of the main issues. We're going to look at the previous reports from the CPC on surveillance technology and look at it broadly and like how can we work with CDP, the police department, to establish a broad policy around surveillance technology. And some of the issues that we discussed in terms of this technology were, the work at the real-time crime center, shot spotter policy, automated license plate readers, and things like that. We're also looking, in terms of the other work group, looking at the need for police response for behavioral health and how we could determine what, be part of a process to determine when police response is needed. And so that we've talked about surveys and other research on the efficacy of crisis intervention in Cleveland, including the experience of people who've been through that, who've received that response from the city and the police department with CIT officers. Other issues that are in our draft plan and that we discussed at that meeting include recruitment and retention of police officers, discipline, vehicle pursuit, general review of police orders, bias-free policing, and use of force. So you can see we have a pretty big list, and we're still in the process of prioritizing and looking at how we're going to address those issues. Our meetings going forward will be on the third Wednesday of the month at the CPC office on Perkins from 6 to 8 p.m. So I don't know if other committee members have anything to add. That's my quick report.
The next report is from the Police Training Committee, and I understand that Commissioner Bonita will be, since you chaired that meeting, did attempt, Chair John Adams, Commissioner John Adams called and said that you would be able to give a report. I assume he didn't call you.
Great, I'm happy to give that
Thank
report.
you, I appreciate
Thank you very
that.
much. Yes, we did recently meet. Since our last meeting, full commission meeting, we did receive the in-service training preload, which is essentially kind of an introduction to the in-service training that the division officers go through every year. And so in that, the commissioners on the committee were able to offer feedback. We ended up sending 6 pages of feedback to the training division, and they are now working on incorporating that feedback, and then they will be submitting the curriculum and the training materials to the Justice Department for their feedback, and then they will be coming back to us to let us know what they were able to incorporate, and then also giving us a final review. We also, as part of that committee, are working on developing a process through which future police training curriculum and police training plans will be reviewed, because we are not the only body that provides oversight and feedback to the division on their curriculum. So we're working on creating a process that is clear and streamlined, and allows us to provide sufficient oversight and make final determinations on that. So at our next meeting, that process will be presented by our chair, Commissioner Dr. Adams, and Commander Magooth of the training division. We are also working on an event for, I believe it is going to be in October, thank you, where we will be working with the division to do a demonstration of some of the new training modalities that they're practicing. So one of the things that they're doing now is actually live simulations, where they give the officers an opportunity to actually try to practice the application of the policies. And one of the ways that they do that is through video simulations, where they'll play a scenario, the officer, they pause it, they ask the officer what they would do. And so these are some new types of training that they have started doing since the start of the consent decree, and so we wanted to give the public an opportunity to see that and also offer feedback to the division on the types of training that they're doing. So that will be a public event. We are still in the process of planning it and getting, and we'll be publishing the date. So I highly encourage all of you to go to clecpc.org. Question mark? Yeah, okay, thank you. And signing up for our email list. And then you can get information about events like that and other events that we're doing as a commission. We would love to have you there for you to experience some of what the division is doing in terms of making sure that our officers are providing the best care for the community possible, and then also to let your voice be heard about that as well. So other commissioners, did I miss anything on the training division?
Thank you. The only thing I will add is that the October is a target date, so we still need to work through the logistics for that use of force simulation event we are trying to plan. There are some things that has to go into it. We have to pick a location, we have to get the budget together, we have to make sure that everything works to make it happen. So right now, we're targeting October, but we need to work that out. So I just want to add that point.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you both. So Commissioner Wong, who is chairing the Police Accountability Committee.
Thank you so much. Hi again. So before this is a standing committee, and it's obviously the one that is of a lot of interest to the community because it deals with accountability. And I want to maybe clarify our understanding of accountability. Many people think it's very synonymous with the police discipline, but I think it's broader than that. And if I may share a paragraph from a report from 2019 authored by the CPC to help us think about the broader implications of accountability and how it relates to the other police committees. So I quote this, many conversations limit accountability to discipline, and understandably so, as discipline can give the impression that the person or entity who has been made to answer for their actions. The problem with this perspective is it is limited and too late. Discipline is initiated after the misconduct has already occurred, and while there may be some relief in knowing the misconduct was left unchecked or was not left unchecked, the damage was already has caused a ripple effect of trauma that no write-up, suspension, or termination can undo. For this reason, accountability must be defined as a proactive intervention to reduce and, when possible, prevent misconduct. Accountability is not one intervention, but the combination of interventions which clearly builds upon one another, with discipline being the last alternative. The interventions include clearly articulated policies and procedures, effective and reflective measurable training, and consistent and transparent expectations supported by supervisors. So I hope with this framework that we can better explain the role of the CPCs, and not just its accountability committee, but accountability is such an important foundation upon which we can rebuild the trust between the community and the police. So the specific updates from the committee is that we are still working on our strategic plan for 18 months. We are developing a discipline chart. You know, the discipline procedure was kind of a little bit confusing to even all of us. It's very complicated. There's many routes. We will hope to have those charts within the month or 2 months, and we will make sure that there's multiple charts that explain from the perspective of a community member how you would go about reporting misconduct and asking us to look into cases. So we'll make sure to publicize that once those are made. We are also starting to train ourselves in how to look at cases. So I've asked for a slate of cases that went through the CPRB, and they gave, this is a Civilian Police Review Board, and they gave their assessment and ruling on these cases. But these are special cases in the sense that either the safety director or the police chief did not agree with the ruling of the CPRB. So I think it would be interesting to know and to learn through cases where there was a disagreement as the outcome of discipline. And we have also formed 3 work groups that, again, any community member that has interest is welcome to participate in these work groups. We welcome your expertise because of your life experiences and your everyday experiences living in the neighborhoods that you want to hopefully make obviously more safer for everybody. So the first work group is, it's a little bit technical. This is a Brady Giglio work group. Under the charter, we are tasked as a commission to create a list of officers that have what attorneys would call Brady Giglio material. And these were 2 U.S. Supreme Court cases that basically found that the prosecution, if it has any evidence that could, the term is exculpable, that can help the defense, that they must turn that information over. So we are responsible if, say, an officer has things in his or her record that might impinge on their ability to be believed and as a witness of integrity, impeachable evidence is called, that we are going to put them on this list potentially. And this list will create a database eventually that the community will have access to. And we hope that this will provide a good check on the work of our defense attorneys in properly being able to advocate for people. And often these cases can lead to improper sentencing or the wrong people ending up in jail. So this is of real importance. So I have selected, I will be in the work group, and Commissioner James Chura will also be in that work group. Mr. Chura has 33 years of experience in our police force, and he served also as the commander of internal affairs. So I believe that his knowledge and experience will be very helpful. So thank you for serving in that role. And we will find more people to populate the rest of the work group. The second work group that we started just in our last meeting is the discipline work group. So again, this is not the accountability, it's focused specifically on police discipline, and we are working to populate, so if that's of interest to you, we are working to populate that work group. The third work group we have is the gender violence and sexual misconduct work group. We had started that earlier, and I think that we decided that the information that we would need information that we gather through our discipline work group to properly situate the gender violence and sexual misconduct work group onto the right projects and on the right projects and assessments and research that would actually have an impact on the community. This in no way is saying that these are not important issues. We understand how important it is. We want to make sure that work group gets off on the right track. So again, if you have experiences or you have passion, you have understanding of gender violence and sexual misconduct, gender-based violence and sexual misconduct, please come speak to me if you have any interest in participating in these work groups. Don't feel intimidated. You know, we would certainly want these work groups not to be overrun with lawyers and professionals that may not lack the perspective that you have as common citizens. Thank you so much. And our next meeting will be Tuesday, August 8th from 6 to 8 p.m. in the headquarters and Perkins Avenue. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We added to this agenda a report from the police community outreach. And we have a new chair for that committee, and she will be giving the report tonight.
It's me again. Good evening. During our last outreach committee meeting, which was held July 24th of 2023, we voted to select myself as the chair, so I just want to say thank you to my fellow commissioners for entrusting me with this role and responsibility. Further on in the meeting, we established a work group consisting of Commissioner Kennedy and Commissioner Garrett Ferguson. They are leading the charge to enhance the CPC's annual survey on community police interactions and to get that out there to as many residents as possible. And the goal of these surveys are to just ensure that the projects that the commission work on and the issues that we address are directly tied to the needs and the concerns we face as Clevelanders. We also briefly discussed police recruitment and outreach. Our next meeting will be held August 7th, which is a Monday. We decided to host our meetings every other Monday to work on this, to have them as frequently as we can. They will be held in our CPC offices at 3631 Perkins Avenue on the 4th floor. It can also be watched on YouTube via live stream. Let's see. And if you would like more information, I suggest going on our CPC website. That's clecpc.org. And I also have business cards if you guys want my number to find out more information about the commission or the outreach committee and how you could be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We are down to another comment.
Forgot. I'm sorry. I have an important addition. I forgot to announce the commissioners that are on the work group. In case you would like to speak or feel more comfortable speaking with them, that is Commissioner for the Gender-Based Violence and Sexual Misconduct Work Group is Commissioner Garrett Ferguson, Commissioner Zayed, and Commissioner Benito. Thank you so much.
I know it sounds like a lot. I think it's a very good indication of the work that's being done by the commission. The police committees have only been up and running for maybe about a month, but they are all delved into the work that needs to be done, and they are moving forward in developing a plan or a framework for the projects or the initiatives that they will undertake. A lot of the work that's being done, in addition to that work, being responsive to the consent decree, it is also work that is responsive to our community. By putting these policies and practices and rules in place, by reviewing them, critiquing them, offering them up for changes where needed, it makes for a better police department and improved relationships between our community and the police department that we have oversight of. So I just wanted to share this with you. It seems like a lot, but these committees have been very, very active the last couple of weeks, and they've been doing this work, and we want to be able to report back to you as we complete these assignments, give you status reports as we work through them, and acknowledge that it is a very busy time for the commission as a whole. We're going to open the floor for public comment. I want to just make two comments that we respectfully are asking that you keep your comments to 3 minutes so that we can get through this agenda and the adjournment of the meeting on time. We also will ask that, also will notify you that if whatever your questions or comments are, if they exceed 3 minutes, we'll call you on it so that we can make time for everybody to make a comment that wants, to do that. And then if you have additional comments that you want to share outside of those 3 minutes, we will ask you to at least send them to our website or send a letter to us at the Perkins office, and all of that information has been shared, and we can reinforce that tonight before you leave if you have additional comments that you want to make. So I do want to say this because I know some people came out expecting a discussion about some of the personnel issues that we have been discussing. We are in the process of finalizing a special meeting that would deal with the personnel issues in the next couple of weeks. So that would be an opportunity for us to actually discuss and come to some resolution with a couple of personnel issues that are on the table. But they are not issues that we would discuss tonight at all. So I'm sorry, 1 minute, I see you, Brent. Did you have something, Shelley, you wanted to add? Or?
No, just public comments and I don't know if it would be easier.
Where's your mic? Okay.
Would it be easier for people to come to the mic who want to make a public comment?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
I'm gonna make this quick, since you all know that I know it's very, very critical that you know that charter. When these officers come up in front of you, so you'll know what you're doing, then no one can tell you anything about the charter because you're going to know it within your heart and in your head. I'm going to put this question to Pete Van Leer. In the charter, there are 3 subsections, 3 to 4 subsections. Can you name them? Without looking at the charter.
We're not answering questions during the public comment session, but we would definitely take your comments. We will look at them, and they may be referred to another committee, or they may come back before the full commission, but we're not going to use this opportunity to give responses. We want to hear what you have to say. We're in a position to listen tonight.
Okay, so I'm going to say this, Ms. Ridgway. I'm going to email you, okay? And at the end of the day, I want Mr. Van Leer to answer those questions. We, the families, put all of you guys in that seat. We did. And we could have been in that seat, but we did not because we wanted to be fair so it wouldn't be no impropriety. So I have a right to ask that question because there's been issues with this charter and the consent decree that you guys don't know. And we're going into the 8th month. And I am stressing that. You have to know it.
Good evening. My name is Dave Lima. I'm a member of SURGE, Showing Up for Racial Justice, the Northeast Ohio chapter. Mayor Bibb's rejection of your choice for executive director is, in my view, contrary to the city charter. I believe it is a direct attempt not only to insert politics in the selection process, but a direct attempt to dilute the commission's authority. According to the Plain Dealer's article of July 21st, Mayor Bibb suggested the commission nominate 2 or 3 candidates so he would have the choice of selecting the executive director. I repeat, so he would have the choice. The choice is not his. The choice is yours. His part is largely ceremonial. His appointment authority is necessary to comply with civil service laws and city employment rules, but he does not have the choice. Remember, the choice and the nomination rests exclusively with you, the commission. Please resist any attempt to allow a runaround of the city charter. We worked hard to pass issue 24 in order to have a permanent police commission with authority, independence, and funding, so that the policy and misconduct decisions regarding the Cleveland Department of Police would no longer be in the hands of City Hall and the Department of Public Safety. Those decisions are yours. Please resist complying with his suggestion, which would weaken your authority and independence. Make your decision. Give him one choice, not 2 or 3. Thank you.
My comments more towards the residents and people within the room, also the committee as well. We talk about the policing and the issue on it, but for the residents and my fellow neighbors, I've been a homeowner here for the past 3 years. I will continue to be a homeowner in this neighborhood, but if you do not bring the youth here that have the reach, the authority, the power, the pressure you need to make the change you need, then it's going to go through one ear out the other. They're not going to listen to you. You just saw 2 women up here, one discussing about her sister that was being stalked, the other one about the police report. How many times are we going to constantly have the same circle conversation? Because if you really are sick of it, the way you're talking about it right now, then you will tell your kids about TV 20, about watching what's happening. You'll be telling them to come to these committee meetings. You'll be telling them about every single thing happening up and down your block. I live off Glendale. There's shootings down my street, a block away. Not even, I can hear it every single day. There's drug activity up at the convenience store near my house. There's black history that's being slowly erased in this neighborhood because you're not making them aware. Everyone on this board, they're gonna do their job, they're gonna do whatever. But you do not have the power you need to make the change you want when they're constantly visiting you at home. If you want the change that you want from these committee people, from your chief of police, bring them here. Tell them to watch TV 20, because they're gonna talk. They're gonna talk. And next you know it's gonna be on the blog. Then it's gonna be on the news. Then someone's gonna have to act. We're constantly having the same conversation over and over and over again. And then what? No change at all. All of y'all are residents, neighbors, friends, family. Y'all all have Facebook, social media, and what are you saying? What are you doing? Y'all gonna go home and go about your day after this meeting is over. So next commissioner meeting they're having here at the Harvard Community Center, downtown, City Hall, wherever, you need to bring them there. Tell them to watch TV 20, because I know a lot of y'all know they just had a falling out over in April, May, and June, whichever meeting they had, over at the police commissioner meeting. They would have known that. They would have been talking about that. They would have been knowing about all the police activity that is happening. But they don't. They don't. They just going off of the books, the textbooks, and what the teachers are telling them. But if you're not bringing them here to talk about it. Only reason I know about this because I'm part of a block club that's telling me about these commissioner meetings. My family's not talking about this. They're not bringing this conversation to the dinner table. Because if you really are sick of it, talk about it. Bring it up consistently, not a one-time thing. Not a one-time thing. This is going to go one ear out the other. Them, after they leave, everything you said, one ear out the other. Promise you that. It's because it's sad. No, it's sad. Like I'm not even trying to preach pros, but it's if you really want it, bad enough. If you're tired of seeing your sisters, your family members dead, one by one, on your block, your friends and family dead, wondering what happened. I got friends and family that got to go to funerals in the next few weeks just because of the brutality happening in their neighborhood. Because you're not telling them. That's it.
Sir, would you give your name, please?
Hi, my name is Larry Patterson. Like I said, I'm a resident within Ward 1. I'm active in my community. Only reason I became active in my community is because one of my neighbors told me about a block club meeting they were having, and I have been getting informed every single day of what's happening in the Cleveland neighborhood, what's happening in my neighborhood, what's happening on my street. Oh, and if you want a little tidbit, there's a lot, Grace Mount Lot, from my house. Past 2-3 years, my neighbors have been fighting because they don't want properties there. They want an intergenerational park. You see, other cities, they had no problem doing it for the residents, the homeowners there. They're pushing houses there. Now, what does that sound like? Gentrification? I hope that puts like a question mark in a lot of people's heads. If you are not making the youth aware, the pressure you need that's visiting you every day, then you will have a front row seat to watching everything that the black people in this neighborhood built swept right underneath you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasmine Long. I am a Ward 3 resident. Can you guys hear me? This is really tall. In my day job, I am the president and CEO of Birthing Beautiful Communities, and I am here in my capacity as third vice president of the NAACP. I do watch all of the streamings, and I'm very informed because I want to know what's going on in my community. I live in the city of Cleveland, and I make the choice to live here because I believe in our community. And so while last meeting was disappointing, I do want to say that the work that you all are doing, as evident by everything that we've heard, by every comment, every question that's been asked today, is clear as day. And so what I wanted to say is that Director Garrett Ferguson is a member of the board of the Cleveland branch NAACP, and she's a tremendous asset to our work. She serves as the chair for the Women in the NAACP committee, and while we know that last meeting was not a reflection of what we want to see in this committee, we are so proud to stand with our sister in this commission and support you guys in anything that you may need to actually make change in our community and in our neighborhoods. We urge you to focus on why you were appointed, what the expectations of your work are, and to really understand the charter as you're supposed to and get this work done so that we really can see true change in our community and for our young people as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I thank you for the time that I'm going to be able to speak. My name is Bernita Thomas. I'm a resident. I grew up in Mount Pleasant. I've been in Mount Pleasant and Ward 1 nearly practically all of my life. There was a little it was something on her presentation I wanted to address. In 4th District, we have a Community Relations Committee, a DPC already. Now, I co-chair that committee, and there's like 12 other people on that committee from the various wards that are in Ward 1. And we're involved in the community to hopefully try to make our community safe. We help the police, we help the commander, our new commander, Mo Brown, and our DPC officers, Brooklyn Barnes, Jaleese, and Officer Harder, as far as getting information to the commander when something goes wrong on your street. I've only seen, is everybody here in 4th District? Well, what I'm going to suggest that you all would attend our meeting, which is the 4th Wednesday of every month at 7 o'clock down at Covenant Community Church. That's when the commander goes over statistics and lets us know what's going on in the 4th District, which encompasses all of our neighborhoods here. And also, we have other people that come in to talk to us, whether they're from the city, county, or state, to tell us what they're doing as far as that. And I would like to invite any one of you to attend our meetings also, if you would like to come. We would appreciate you being there. And like I said, I only see very few people from Ward 1. It's not only starting with the youth, it starts with the adults to teach the youth. So you all have to show up to the meetings and like he said, bring the youth with you. That's the only way we're gonna make this work. We got to help ourselves too. We're not getting any more police right now. So we need to help ourselves. We need to keep our community safe, because if we don't, then we will perish along with the rest of it. I do travel, and I go to other cities, and when I get up in the morning before I do conferences, I hear of other cities having the same problems that we're having here in Cleveland. We want to make a change, and the change comes with us. It comes with us first. Also, I say police are people too. Yeah, we all make mistakes, but we want to keep, everyone has one solution. We want to keep our community safe from everything that's going on here. So I would suggest that each and every one of you shows up at one of our meetings that I co-chair so that we can start working on this together. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rosie Palfy. I live in an inner ring suburb, but people who volunteer and work in Cleveland and get their health care in Cleveland, our voices still matter. I've been working on police reform for over 8 years. I was interviewed for the DOJ civil rights investigation because of my advocacy work with homeless women, okay? I served on the Mental Health Response Advisory Committee for 7.5 years until this year when the city took the committee over from the Adams Board, and that was created under the consent decree. I want to thank everybody for coming here tonight because a lot of people watch the videos on YouTube when it's convenient to them, and people don't see all the viewers in the room. As you can see, I'm wearing a t-shirt. It says Team Jason, Shelley, Ryan, and Sarah. And I want you to know I support the staff wholeheartedly. I'm absolutely outraged by the mayor's letter. The mayor insulted the commission, and I understand you all are busy, but you're gonna wait to have a special meeting. You've already lost the hearts and minds of a lot of people. Why should I continue to come to meetings? I've been asked to serve on a mental health committee. Why should I? You're not listening to me. You're not listening to my suggestions. You could put out a press release that does not upset the city. You don't have to be controversial, but you're not listening to people's suggestions and concerns. And I don't want to offend anybody here, but I'm just not going to say it.
Hi, my name is Lisa Dollar. I do see some of the people in the room that attends the block club. I am my block club captain for the Miles Heights in the Village for Ward 1. And I had a very strong testimony in reference to why I decided to get involved. And the reason why I decided to get involved was because my son is 9 currently, and at 7 years old, we were lying in the bed, sleep. I live on 144th Street by the Arthur Johnson's Park. 147 is like a really turned up street. And there is a lot of dilapidated homes. And a bullet came through my bedroom window. And it was just inches away from my son's head. And he is so heavily aware as to what happened is that on his TikTok page, all I see down his timeline is, I love God, I love God. And he even gives his testimony. At 7 years old, there was a bullet that almost killed me. And it's very, very sad. And I either could have opted out to leave and move, but I stuck it out and said, you know what? This is a testimony from God for me to get involved, to get active. And so what I've been doing with the help of some of the residents in Ward 1, we've continued or got the block club started all over again. But here is my thing. I thank you all for sincerely from the bottom of my heart being here, because I'm trying to know who's who. What are the chain of commands? Who do I contact for this? Who do I contact for that? I know I just can't run to my councilman like he said tonight. Oh gosh, if you guys having trouble with your neighbors, try and call someone else. And every time I try to reach out and follow the chain of commands, I'm getting, oh yeah, we'll be on it right away. I didn't even know, like a precinct committee person, and I'll let everybody know my strengths and my weaknesses, and I don't mind that. But I didn't know that there was a Republican precinct committee person and a Democratic precinct committee person. Who is our precinct committee person and what do they do? I'm quite sure there's a lot of people who don't even know what the the precinct committee person does or who they are. And from what I'm aware, there are several. They're alphabetized. And it's like, so when I'm contacting people and I'm trying to figure out like neighbor problems, you'll go to your councilman and then he will assist you. But there's a, committee engagement group? I wasn't even fully aware of that. But then you call them and then it flatlines. Nobody calls you back. People say that is in higher up positions, they say they're going to do something, but they never follow through. And here it is, before I know it, I'm blowing up the phone and not trying to be in a disrespectful way, but I want to see some change happen. And I feel like that is one of the reasons, like with Mr. Patterson stating, like everybody get involved. But I just really think that people has lost hope or faith. And there is a lot of people who don't know, but then when you do get involved, like myself, you still feel lost. Because I've had a series of issues that my neighbors would come to me and say, Lisa, can you help me? I had an 80-year-old woman today, and I felt really, really bad for her because she said, I don't want to say anything, but my neighbor grass is extremely high, and they're really nice. But I want them to cut it. And so I said, hey, here's a number for you to call. Then she called, and I said, I will assist you with this. She calls back and said, oh, they told me to call this number. She's 80 years old. She's not going to go through all of that. And I said, well, you know what I'll do? I'll find a very clever way to assist you to where they won't know you said it. The see something, say something policy. The next thing you know, I have made phone calls, and the first thing they'll say, can you come outside? No, I don't want to come outside. That's going to cause conflict because they're going to know that I called. So that's a whole nother story. I have stories for days, but if someone cares, I would really love it if they can reach out to me with some of just not my concerns and issues, but my block club, my community issues, and see if we can get to the bottom line in reference to resolving some of these issues. Thank you.
All right, everybody, please look at me. Okay? Hi. Number one, I'm here to offend everybody here, unlike the other person. I have been involved to watch the police reform since consent decree started. Our issue here is lack of participation from all of you. But today, all of you showed up here. Guess what I see in common? You are from the generation who actually got some civil education classes. You guys actually knows the value of community engagement. But you have been older now. You are probably busy with your grandkids. You think you may not have time, but today you made the time because you thought the mayor will be here. Guess what? It's not the mayor. But you come back here. Congratulations to all of us. Don't worry about the people sitting up there. They can be good, they can be bad. But issue 24 was the community's will to have a determination about police reform, to return the peace and the prosperity back to the community. They are making effort. But unfortunately, we have this thing called politics. The politics right now dictating everything. So some of them may get distracted. That's why all of you, please keep coming. Every month, the last Wednesday evening, 6 to 8, come here. Make them accountable. So they will help all of us to make police accountable. And also that will help the police to get what they actually deserve. When they are hardworking, 18 hours a day, no sleep, no time to eat. Do they really get what they deserve? They need sleep, they need to eat healthy too. There are good programs to teach them how to help community members, but they did not let those programs to help the officers. Is that fair? No. So all of us, doesn't matter which ward you are in, you have to come out. You have to learn the things which you probably learned but you forgot. And you have to help the younger people in the community to learn the things they never got a chance to learn when they went through school. Because right now our education will not give them the proper civil education, social sciences. That's why they do not know what you know. Please keep coming out. Doesn't matter where the meeting is. If you can get online, watch it. When you get a chance, come in. Hold them accountable is help you, help your loved ones. So our police officer can actually live. Not to get discouraged, to keep on quitting. Do we need more police officers? Yes and no. When you force an officer to do the things they are not trained for, of course the mistake will happen. Plus, you don't let them eat and sleep 18 hours a day. What do you expect? So it's all of us effort. Don't depend on other people to do our job. Thank you very much.
I am a long hauler, coronavirus survivor. 24 days in a coma, 54 days in the hospital. I'm cautious about microphones. You all should make sure you clean microphones. I'm very cautious, so I hope you're picking me up. I grew up at 10414 Sandusky. I went to Paul Revere. I went to Nathan Hill. I graduated from John Adams. I'm the general manager of WOVU 95.9 FM. There's two things I'd like to say today. There are some monitor people here. There is the mayor's chief of council here. If it's against the rule for what the mayor did, then they should stand up and tell us it's wrong. I'm just keeping it 100. I'm keeping it 100. If it's against the law, what the mayor did, then these people who've been monitoring under the consent decree and the mayor's chief lawyer should stand up and say, this gentleman is right. I don't see them standing. I don't see them making any comments. So therefore, I move on. I am honored when I hear people like you all are sitting in front of me do your best and hear us call you out your names and disrespect you. I, like anybody else, only can go so far. And I don't care how much somebody tell you you need thick skin, we need to come with love. The only way we're gonna make this work is we take time out and give the police a standing ovation. Today, they arrested 7 people that was driving northeast Cleveland crazy. Nobody's saying nothing about that. Nobody's talking about those guys that were shooting and beat that man down unmerciful. They caught him, and they're not dead. The police didn't kill him. They arrested them. But ain't nobody talking about that in here. It's all quiet. We clapping our hands. I'm like, yeah, let's keep the sun. That ain't the problem. The problem is we got to work together. Stabbed in the eye, 1973. BCO boys, Brick City Outlaws. Stabbed in the eye. John Adams High School, 3rd floor. Don't tell me nothing about gangs. Said, I'll never see again out my eye. So I see my sister who comes in, she has the t-shirt, she's taunting you all, say, this is what I want. But if the mayor is wrong, tell me. Because Because I'm confused.
They're not going to tell you that.
Why? Why aren't they going to tell me that? If it's, wait, let me talk, please. Let me talk, please, let me talk. Let me talk, let me talk. Let me talk, please. I'm standing right here. This gentleman been down for the crown for years. He'll pull my coat and say, it don't work like that, Jay. They wrong. Professor Dunn right over there, he'll tell me they wrong. That's where we are. You see my 3 minutes up, peace.
Hi, I'm Kayla Pincus. I will do my best to explain this the best way I can. I was in DC today and I drove back for this meeting, got here a little late. But so mostly I just want to, I guess, say my piece to you guys about a particular issue regarding the lawyer for the commission. Basically, you know, there was a lot that kind of obviously went into the making of this. There was supposed to be, ideally was supposed to be a lawyer on the commission so that there was free counsel in effect, you know, to give advice to the commission. That did not happen. And so they are trying to figure how to get legal advice that's trustworthy for their sake, for our sake, and that we could all rely on. So now there's like a lot going on with that, and there's an idea of that I think is important that we vocalize our feelings about, depending on how you end up deciding how you feel, which is, you know, that basically a lawyer be hired that is split between the commission and the law department. Now, the law department is the lawyer for the city, and this commission was created to be independent, and that's such an important word, independent, you know, from the city, so that we can trust what they're doing, like as a community. And that's really what it comes down to. Whether people have bad intentions, I don't know. It doesn't so much matter. We can't determine whether that is happening all the time, but what we can do is we can create a system where we can trust the process and trust the structure that we're making. And so the problem with having a lawyer who is paid by the city and whose boss is, at least in part, is the city, as trustworthy as these lawyers may be who are here. The issue is that we don't know if they're going to be representing necessarily the interests of both parties. In other words, there are two parties, right? At least. There's the commission, and then there is the city. And so a judge is a person who exists neutrally between two parties. But a lawyer is somebody who cannot represent two parties when they are in potential conflict. That's kind of the idea with a conflict of interest. So I think that I just want to make it clear, I guess, my view on this, which is that that we should not approach this as, well, if a conflict of interest arises, then we prove that, because it's going to be really hard to prove each and every single time. And then the idea is that if you can prove it, then the city will pay for a lawyer for that specific instance to get an outside counsel, basically. But the problem is, again, I don't think we're going to be able to prove that each and every time. It's going to be a waste of time. And here we are. You know, I think that basically what I'm saying is the underlying issue, you know, I believe, is that there is an inherent conflict of interest. You cannot represent two parties that are often in opposition or kind of inherently in opposition with one another. And I think it would be a real significantly missed opportunity to do that at this point. I think it's more important than almost anything else that's going on right now, you know, because we don't know who to trust. And that's the point. That's the point. We need somebody who is not, you know, part of the pre-existing structure so that we can continue to have support in this body. Thank you.
This gentleman will be the last person to speak. Thank you.
So my question also comes with some comments, perceptions that I've seen. Most of you are in the Lee Harvard area? Yeah? Okay. I think the area in general is in trouble. And I say that because, let me see a show of hands. How many of you on an incessant basis get telephone calls or letters in the mail wanting to sell your homes. Okay, so this is the thing. For 3 years, we've had these cats down in the shopping center spinning around all times of the night, keeping everybody awake during the hours when they need to be sleeping to be healthy and clear the next day that they have to go out in the world and function. Now, in June, they really hit a new level, new high. They were over there firing guns, shooting off fireworks. The music was so loud, it just ballooned through the entire community. You could hear it everywhere. I couldn't believe it. So I called the police, but I've been calling the police for 3 years. For 3 years. Now, I understand the issues. I understand what's going on in terms of lack of manpower to show up. This particular night, it was so ridiculous. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up out of my bed, put my clothes on, stood on the corner right across from the parking lot, and it looked like a scene out of a Mad Max movie. Walked across the street, saw one individual that was kind of separate from the rest of what was going on. I asked him, from the heart, why are you doing this? He said, because the money is good. I said, okay. I left, went back, started putting pieces together, and this is what I have. This whole area is being assaulted. You have Section 8 individuals that are moving in like in massive amounts. Up the street from me, there's a woman who has about 15 kids in the house, and I don't even know how she's able to pull this off, but she's got about 15 kids in the house that she's being paid to keep. Now, the last time, July 3rd, they were over there again. I got up, went out, sat on my porch, getting ready to go over there again, and I saw the police come. Police came, they stopped right on my street. Sirens blasting, lights showing. They stopped, sat there for a minute, lights went off, sirens went down, they turned around, went back the other way. Now, I don't know how to address that, but I do know that this is a community issue. And whatever the police can do to come in and assist in what needs to happen in this area for change, beautiful. But you all need to understand what's getting ready to happen here. You need to go and do some research on what's called the 15-minute city.
Thank you so much. We're sorry to intervene, but we're running short on time. We're going to direct you to please speak to the police officer or to your councilman.
So the police are still here. I would recommend that as soon as this meeting is over, if you have specific questions to ask of them or comments you want to share with them, reach out to them to give them a chance to respond. And I think the councilman is still here as well. I know some of the comments that were made were particular to Ward 1. Make sure that you share those comments with Councilman Jones as well. Okay, so we're a little bit behind schedule as far as the agenda, which is timed, but we're going to open the floor for old business. Is there any old business? Yes. Commissioner Early.
To all of my colleagues and to everybody here tonight, thank you for being here. I wanted to touch on old business from our previous meeting.
We want you to be able to hear the commissioner.
From our previous meeting in which we voted to have Jason as our executive director. And our commissioner, Commissioner Wong, brought up a good point that I think was overlooked when it came to the process of our attorney. And so what I want to ask this commission to do is, number one, for the issue centered around the executive director position only, that we look at outside counsel to see if the mayor indeed, so to have outside counsel look at indeed if the mayor overstepped or did not overstep. I personally am not in favor of his decision, and I want to say that publicly because I feel that he has undermined our power and our authority and our position. So with that being said, I'm asking for us as a commission to hire outside counsel to investigate or help us come to a conclusion on the decision that we made as a commission. Lastly, let me say this, knowing politics, it is very difficult for the mayor to put out a letter or a statement without taking it through legal first. So the fact that it has already been out there means that legal has probably advised him that he has made the right decision. I personally, after reading the charter, do not believe that. So I'm asking for independent counsel that will look into our decision of nominating our executive director, Jason Goodrich. Thank you.
Okay, so the chair recognizes your comment. As I had said earlier, we are not dealing with personnel issues tonight. We will be having a special meeting. That's one of the main items on the that would be on the agenda, and I would respectfully ask that you bring that up during that meeting.
With all due respect, Kyle, were you going to make that motion tonight?
I do want to make that motion
That
tonight.
motion is out of order. We have said that
Madam
we're
Chair.
not discussing
Madam Chair,
personnel
now-
issues tonight. We will bring this back to the
you know,
table.
I don't go back and forth and argue. What I'm
Yes.
saying is, this is not a personnel issue. This is not a personnel issue. This is a law issue. And so it's not in the
It's about the conflict.
It's not in framework of hiring an attorney. It is in the framework of if a decision was made legally that backs us up and supports our power and authority. That is all I'm concerned about. It is not politics. It is not personality. It is not people. We were undermined. We made a decision. The charter says we have final authority. That is our executive director.
We have invited the city attorney, Mark Griffin, to our special meeting, and that's one of the topics that we have identified that he would be able to join that meeting with us and discuss.
So for clarity to the chair, is the motion that I'm asking for, the request that I'm asking for, going to be denied based upon perception that it is a personnel issue? And
I believe that
I will
it is a
respect your
personnel
answer.
issue because it directly affects our executive director, which is our part of the staff for
Madam
this
Chair?
commission. Yes.
Madam Chair.
So
Madam
I
Chair.
want to see if there's any other old business that need to be
Point of
brought to the
order.
table.
Point of order, Madam Chair, you're out of order. We have not finished discussing the subject. You're in violation of Robert's rules. Please let us discuss the subject, and please listen to Commissioner Early, what he is saying.
I understand what Commissioner Early is
Point of
saying.
order.
I said at
Point
the
of
beginning,
order.
the chair.
Point of order, Chair.
The chair will recognize your comment as well as Commissioner Early. In planning for this special meeting that's coming up, that's one of the items. We have 30 seconds, thank you. That's one of the items that's on the agenda to discuss. We have invited the attorney, Mark Griffin, to the meeting so we can talk about that in relationship to outside attorney as well. So as I said earlier,
Point
this
of
is not something that we will be talking
Point-
about tonight, but it will be
Point
part
of
of our
order.
agenda.
Point of order, Chair. There's a motion on the table. I second the
I
motion.
don't remember there was a motion on the
He did
table.
make
I
the
thank
motion.
you.
I second the motion.
We will not discuss this tonight, and this
cannot- there's a
ruling is
motion
coming
on
from
the
the chair.
table.
We're in overtime now, so is
Point
there
of
a
order. You
motion
cannot
to
end this
extend this
meeting.
meeting?
Point of order, point of order, point of order. Chair, please make a ruling
The
on this.
chair would
There is
not
a motion
recognize, the chair does
There
not
is a
recognize
motion.
this discussion tonight. As I
Appeal to
said
the chair,
earlier,
appeal
that this
to
is
the
one of
chair.
topics
Now
that
the
will be
entire
discussed at our
commission
special
has to
meeting.
vote whether there is a motion that is live on the table
I don't
and
remember
whether
it
they
being a
believe
motion.
that you
I
are
think
out
he
of order.
discussed it.
I've seconded the motion. Appeal to the chair.
Has a motion
Please
been
read your
made?
Roberts rules.
Has a
Please read
motion
your
been
Roberts.
made?
For clarity.
The motion has been
I
made.
thought
The
you
motion
shared a
has been
comment.
seconded.
Yes, a motion was put on the table. I moved that we
I don't remember.
make a vote to hire outside counsel to look into the decision of what the mayor did. And that was the motion, and it should be respected.
I've seconded the motion already. Please open for debate, chair, and discussion and the vote.
Attorney Griffin, do you? Are you serious? Yes, I am serious.
Excuse me, I think with all due respect,
I have not given my comment.
There's a motion.
I understand that there is a motion at the table. I think that it's imperative that we still is a meeting, and we understand that there is a motion. So how do you want to proceed?
We should open for comment
Open
and
for
debate.
discussion.
So,
I do want to ask during the debate phase, let's ask for.
the debate, it has been requested that because
We have to- the chair
the
has-
decision is pertaining to the city, it has been requested. Essentially, that does not mean he has to come now, but, okay, so the question is on the adoption of hiring outside counsel to discuss the executive director position to ensure that,
No,
to ensure,
it's not the
That is
motion.
not,
excuse me, what did you say?
Could you repeat your motion, please?
The motion on the table is that we hire outside counsel to help us make a decision on whether or not the mayor overstepped when it came to us appointing Jason as the executive director.
So the motion is to see if we can hire outside to help determine the mayor's decision if it overstepped our authority.
Outside legal counsel.
Yes, outside.
Outside legal counsel.
independent of the city.
Commissioners that are ready to, the motion has been presented and we're ready for debate. Commissioner Wong.
I have a concern at this point that without determining whether there is a conflict of interest, and this is of a legal matter, none of us are attorneys, that the chair is asking for the law director, excuse me, please, this is very important for the integrity and the independence of the commission, which signals our future as a commission, and it signals also the right of the people to vote on a referendum and their right to determine what their future outcomes will be with public safety in this city. Please, everyone, if you can pay attention, I appreciate it. I'm concerned, Chair, that you have permitted Mr. Mark Griffin to speak when we do not have other counsel at this point. There is, as articulated by many members of the community, an inherent conflict of interest. I believe in the law, I'm not a lawyer, it's called a material conflict of interest. There is also an additional conflict of interest because the mayor has issued an order that is adverse to the majority vote that we made on June 14th, 7-5, that shows the will of the commission in order to nominate and appoint Mr. Jason Goodrick as our executive director. If you do not see that there's an inherent conflict of interest, there is an adverse conflict of interest. Mark is not only the law director of Cleveland, he serves as chief counsel to the mayor. Mr. Delonte Thomas was also mentioned specifically in the mayor's letter as the person that would be, all questions on this issue would be referred to. Therefore, as one community member has mentioned, we are not asking, we're not looking for a judge on this issue. That would be an inherent conflict. We are asking for independent counsel because we are existing in adverse position with the mayor right now. If we cannot see this, and there's significant risk, I will say, to the entire commission about the future liability that we will incur if we cannot stabilize our feelings about this, our impressions of Mr. Goodrick, and respect the majority vote of this commission made on June 14th. In addition, there are aspects of the mayor's letter that are mischaracterizations, or just characterization, I will say, characterizations that do not give any specific detail. I personally was not spoken to by the mayor about any of these characterizations. The mayor has never attended any of our council meetings. However, I think it's inappropriate to allow Mr. Mark Griffin or any member of City Council to speak on, or City Law Department to speak on this issue, to sway the opinion of anybody else on this commission, because we don't, that is the whole point. You cannot have a lawyer, and by the way, Mr. Mark Griffin and Mr. Delonte Spencer Thomas, you are bound by legal ethics to tell us right now if there is a conflict of interest. This is something that we will report, and community members can report to the bar to assess. Do you believe that there is a conflict of interest for you to speak right now on an issue with which you have talked to and agree with the mayor on, in which we are in an adverse position? And if you think there is a conflict, please do not speak, because you will be on public record. I yield my time.
Commissioner Chair Ridgway.
The City Charter 115.5 says that if the law department has rendered a decision and we do not agree with that decision, we have the right to request outside counsel. Now, the law department has not rendered a decision for us to disagree with in order to seek outside counsel. You are responding to something that the mayor wrote, not been rendered by the law department, for us to then go out and seek outside counsel. That's the only thing I'm saying. That's one of the reasons we wanted to be able to go into a special meeting to talk about this and determine whether it is the legitimate reason at this point to request outside counsel based on the mayor's letter rather than a decision that has been rendered by the law department.
Commissioner Benito.
Thank you. I wanted to add to the discussion that I think we need to request a written opinion or written guidance from the law department, yes, because I think as this discussion is bringing up, there's questions about the distinction between the mayor's letter and the law department. I don't believe that that should prevent us from seeking outside counsel, because I think as some of the commissioners have identified, I think there is a concern about an inherent conflict of interest in this situation. So I don't think that that precludes us from making a decision about hiring outside counsel with the scope of helping us to understand whether the mayor's decision was in accordance with the law and the Charter 115.5. So I don't think we're talking about hiring counsel to represent us in any further decisions. I think we are trying to understand whether the mayor's decision is in accordance with the law. So my request would be that we add that in addition to obtaining outside counsel on that question, that we also ask for a written opinion from the law department on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Zayed.
To the chair, I do not believe it is necessary to have a special meeting where I believe you stated that you wanted to go into another executive session to discuss this matter. We can discuss this matter here before the public with transparency to determine this matter the motion is on the table. We can vote on this tonight.
Thank you. So I guess I'll call on myself. So I have 2 points, I guess, more of order. Charter 115 states that we nominate and he appoints, according to the charter. So from my understanding, that is very broad. And whenever language is silent, we have to see if there's any policies, procedures, or any city ordinances. So when I did a quick review, there is a process that is laid out for different like committees, boards, as well as just general like commissions like us. So I'm not sure if we fit under that, but I think that is something to consider, as well at this current point that we do not have a selection process of seeking legal. So we want to ensure, so I'm not saying for or against it. What I'm saying is that we want to ensure that it's fair, judicious, and we want to ensure that we're in order. Commissioner Wong.
I will first read into record from the American Bar Association, its public comment, current clients, Rule 1.7, conflict of interest, current client's comment. I do believe I have 10 additional minutes, so I will read this into the record for the benefit of the commissioners to be able to make a decision right now, ironically, without legal help. So we'll hope we'll do the best. A client-lawyer relationship, and thank you thank you for your patience because this is a very important issue. And client-lawyer relationship, general principles. Loyalty and independent judgment are essential elements in the lawyer's relationship to a client. Concurrent conflicts of interest can arise from the lawyer's responsibilities to another client, a former client, or a third person, or from the lawyer's own interests. For specific rules regarding certain concurrent conflicts of interest, see Rule 1.8. For former clients, conflicts of interest, see Rule 1.9. For conflicts of interest involving prospective clients, see Rule 1.18. For definitions of, quote, informed consent and confirmed in writing, see Rule 1.0, E and B. Section 2, resolution of a conflict of interest problem under this rule requires the lawyer to, 1, clearly identify the client or clients. 2, determine whether a conflict of interest exists. 3, decide whether the representation may be undertaken despite the existence of a conflict, i.e. whether the conflict is consentable by us. And 4, if so, consult with the clients affected under paragraph A and obtain their informed consent confirmed in writing. The clients affected under paragraph A include both of the clients referred to in paragraph A1 and the one or more clients whose representation might be materially limited under paragraph A2. Section 3, a conflict of interest may exist before representation is undertaken, in which event the representation must be declined unless the lawyer obtains the informed consent of each client under the conditions of paragraph B. To determine whether a conflict of interest exists, a lawyer should adopt reasonable procedures appropriate for the size and type of firm and practice to determine in both litigation and non-litigation matters the persons and issues involved. See also comment Rule 5.1. Ignorance caused by a failure to institute such procedures will not excuse a lawyer's violation of this rule. As to whether a client-lawyer relationship exists or having once been established is continuing, see comment to Rule 1.3 in scope. Section 4, if a conflict arises after representation has been undertaken, as we think that we are in an adverse position with the mayor on this issue, the lawyer ordinarily must withdraw from representation unless the lawyer has obtained the informed consent of the client under the conditions of paragraph B. See Rule 1.16. Where one or more client is involved, whether the lawyer may continue to represent any of the clients is determined by both the lawyer's ability to comply with duties owed to the former client and by the lawyer's ability to represent adequately the remaining clients, given the lawyer's duties to the former client. 5, unforeseen developments such as changes in corporate and/or organizational affiliations or the addition or a realignment of parties in litigation might create conflicts in the midst of a representation, as when a company sued by a lawyer on behalf of one client is brought by another client represented by the lawyer in an unrelated matter. Depending on the circumstances, the lawyer may have the option to withdraw from one of the representations in order to avoid the conflict. The lawyer must seek court approval where necessary and take steps to minimize harm to the clients. See Rule 1.16. The lawyer must continue to protect the confidences of the client from whose representation the lawyer has withdrawn. And now the section that we've all been waiting for, identifying conflicts of interest. The first one is directly adverse, which I believe that we are in right now because the mayor has refused and rejected our nomination that was confirmed during a majority vote on June 14th of the commission. It does not matter that 5 people voted against this. The majority rules on our commission according to our bylaws and also according to Robert's rules. Section 6. Loyalty to your current client prohibits undertaking representation directly adverse to that client without that client's informed consent. Thus, absent consent, a lawyer may not act as an advocate in one matter against a person the lawyer represents in some other matter, even when the matters are wholly unrelated. The client as to whom the representation is directly adverse is likely to feel betrayed, and the resulting damage to the client-lawyer relationship is likely to impair the lawyer's ability to represent the client effectively. In addition, the client on whose behalf the adverse representation is undertaken reasonably may fear that the lawyer will pursue that client's case less effectively out of deference to the other client. The clients here for everybody are the commission and the mayor, i.e. that the representation may be materially limited by the lawyer's interest in retaining the current client. Mr. Mark Griffin and Mr. Thomas both work for the mayor. He has the ability to hire them and also to fire them. Similarly, a directly adverse conflict may arise when a lawyer is required to cross-examine a client who appears as a witness in a lawsuit involving another client, as when the testimony will be damaging to the client who is represented in the lawsuit. On the other hand, simultaneous representation in unrelated matters of clients, and that doesn't fall in this case, whose interests are only economically adverse, such a representation of competing economic enterprises in unrelated litigation does not ordinarily constitute a conflict of interest and thus may not require consent or respective clients. Number 7, give me more time if I have it, okay? Directly adverse conflicts can also arise in transactional matters. For example, if a lawyer is asked to represent the seller of a business in negotiations with a buyer represented by the lawyer, not in the same transaction but in another unrelated matter, the lawyer could not undertake the representation without the informed consent of each client. Identifying conflicts of, okay, so I think we get the point, right? I'm sorry, I just wanted to read that into record. I believe under these circumstances, we cannot have Mr. Mark Griffin or Mr. Delonte Thomas, as expert as they are, even comment on whether we have a conflict of interest, since they represent the interests of the mayor as stated in their relationship with the mayor and also in agreement with the adverse position the mayor has taken in his letter on June 14th. I'm sorry, I'm losing my breath. So I would also like to ask Mr. Mark Griffin and Mr. Delonte Spencer Thomas, I believe that there is a conflict of interest. There are members on this commission that believe this. Do you or do you not believe that there is a conflict of interest inherent in your ability to properly give us objective advice regarding the issue discussed in the mayor's letter dated June 20th, 2023? Thank you. Please answer my question before we proceed. Call for the vote.
Thank you. Any further question or debate? Commissioner Donaldson.
Yeah, I'll just add that I do think it's important to seek outside counsel. My only concern with this is, well, a couple concerns. Number one would be the budget, because we don't really know how much this is going to cost and what that will be. Also, we haven't really established a process for seeking the outside counsel either, so if we do vote
Point of
this and it
clarification,
passes,
the expense will
can I
be at
just
the law
finish?
department.
Can I just finish, please?
Because point of clarification, in the charter, according to the charter, if a conflict of interest is determined,
He has the floor.
it is at
let him finish,
but it's a point, I may able to interrupt with a point of clarification. The law department will have to pay for this. There is no additional expenditures based on our budget. Thank you.
So to finish, well, first I'll just say that I want to make it clear that I really try not to interrupt people when they're talking, and I know that you've made that point, you know, during several times when you've talked. that you don't want us to interrupt you. So I just ask for the respect. That's all I'm asking for. And then the other thing I want to just point out is that I know we're going to have a rules meeting also where we were going to discuss conflict of interest, and then we were also planning on having a special meeting as well to discuss this topic. So I think there's just a lot happening at the same time. Like I said, when I first started my statement, I do think it's important for us to seek outside counsel. I do think that's important. I don't want that to get lost. But I just think there's a lot of things happening, and I think this vote is going to kind of put us in a situation where we then have to step back and figure out the process. So that's going to further delay the timeline and what we're trying to accomplish.
Commissioner Garrett Ferguson.
Hi, so I just have like 2 points of clarification. And I think the first is,
Can you talk louder? Sorry.
I think I have 2 points of clarification from our previous meeting. We got a presentation from our interim executive director about whether or not we should have outside counsel. I know Commissioner Wong raised concerns, and I think a couple of us have also raised concerns several times about a possibility of a conflict of interest, of course. But I thought, based on the expert opinion and the presentation that we were given at that previous meeting by the interim executive director, it was seen as the most cost-effective option and the most logical option for us to have an attorney that we cost share between the city and the commission. And I thought at that previous meeting it was determined that the law department was our initial, like they also are our lawyer, like that is the initial people we go through. And it seemed at that meeting that while there were some commissioners that had some concerns, that was the best option moving forward. But now it seems that because of the letter that the mayor sent out, that now there's more of a discrepancy that feels more politically motivated to just hire outside counsel. And so I'm just kind of confused about like, what's the difference between what happened at that previous meeting, when at that previous meeting it was determined by the interim executive director that the best option was for us to utilize the law department, for us to have faith in the law department, because we are independent, but we are still a municipal body. And I remember, I think that was the words that he used, that we were a municipal body and we have to allow for the process to play out with them being our first counsel. So I guess I'm just confused of like that. And then secondly, from my understanding in Charter Amendment 115, it says that yes, we have final authority over issues regarding the Cleveland Police Department, but it doesn't say that we have final authority over the complete city of Cleveland or the mayor. So I'm also just asking for, I guess, some clarification, because it's kind of clear from like reading the actual charter of what we have final authority over, and then I'm just trying to understand for budgetary reasons why there was a flip-flop between that previous meeting and this one.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. We're going to have Commissioner Zaid and Commissioner Kate, and then, or Commissioner Pete. He's going to be the final one. Has anybody else not spoken? And then we're going to call the vote.
It's on. It's not apparently picking up the volume. Excuse me, Commissioner Donaldson. So I'm happy to see that people are citing my presentation. However, I want to make sure that we're not confusing two issues here. What I said very clearly is, regardless if we have a paid city attorney, when you guys have or feel there's an issue with a conflict of interest, 115.5, according to the language in it, I'm not giving you a legal interpretation, it specifically says, at your discretion, you have the right to ask for outside counsel when it's an issue, right? So I always made the point that if you are facing an issue, that is when you would do this, right? So I understand, I think we're mixing two arguments here, the staff attorney versus this specific issue. I think that Commissioner Early brought this motion very clearly around an issue. So bringing the other attorney conversation, I think that's outside this conversation right now. Thank you.
Okay, so from my understanding that they have to close the center, so we have to take a vote because of that. I apologize. But the question is on the adoption to hire outside legal counsel to give us advice on the mayor's letter. Roll call vote will be conducted. I'm sorry, Commissioner Benito?
You closed debate.
Okay, so I have to come back to her. Commissioner Shura? Commissioner Shura?
Sure.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Abstain.
Okay. Commissioner Early?
Aye.
Commissioner Garrett Ferguson?
Nay.
Commissioner Kate Kennedy?
Nay.
Commissioner Chair Ridgway?
Nay.
Commissioner Pete Van Leer?
Abstain.
Chair Rodriguez? Abstain. Commissioner Wong?
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed?
Aye.
Commissioner Benito. Chandra.
Sorry, Commissioner Benito.
Aye.
So we have Benito. I'm sorry. Did you do it? Did you say aye? Sure. Donaldson, no. Early. No. Kennedy. Tara. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 votes for yes, and then the remaining for nay.
No, abstentions do not count. Abstentions do not count in the vote.
Yeah, but
You have to subtract them.
okay. So I believe the motion carried according, okay. I have to see. So I did based on them quickly. Because we might have to look up abstention. Okay.
That was it.
Aye. Say aye. You repeat your vote.
Yep.
My vote was aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
She was an A.
Nay.
I abstained.
Also abstained.
Aye.
Aye.
I do want to, the point of clarification, despite what has been said, the
Okay.
actual charter reads, engage, that one of our abilities is to engage outside legal services at the Department of Law expense, meaning it will not come out of our budget. When the commission determines
Okay, so
in
we
its
have to
discretion-
check.
Please
So
don't interrupt
because,
me.
thank you so much,
Please
we
don't
have to
interrupt
close
me,
this
that there is
meeting.
a conflict of interest
So
between the commission's mission and representation from the
The
city's Department of Law.
meeting will
We will
be
engage them right
adjourned
away.
at 8:58 p.m. Thank you.